All right, so welcome back to another comic review sent to me by my friend Chris. Uh, I don't feel like yelling across the room to say thank you. He already knows. Anyway, so today we're going to be reviewing Terminator Out of Time. So, Terminator Out of Time is the first volume of the new era of Dynamite Terminator from Delkin Shalvey. I can never say that. I was saying Shavely, Duncan Shavely for so long, but no, I've been apparently saying it wrong. It is Delkin Shalvey. God, I've mispronounced that name. And we also have a backup story from Sal from Comic Pop. Um, yeah. So that's kind of cool actually. I think that's a pretty awesome I think that's pretty awesome. Anyway, so for this series, basically what this comic is, um, this series is what I thought was a interconnected story. You know, I thought it was basically a interwoven kind of comic with all these different details and whatnot, and it was basically a one coherent story. When actually, I didn't know this, but it's actually an anthology series. It turns out, yeah. This is actually straight up an anthology series, which I was not expecting in the least. And does that take away from it? No, it actually doesn't take away from anything in this series. Um, I was just surprised that it is an anthology. Um, I have heard that there's a new miniseries. Like, I don't know. Actually, I want to take this moment to really talk about something going on at Dynamite. I really don't know what they're doing. Sometimes I really don't know what in the world is going on with them. You know, the trades took forever to come out. I don't even know if you can get this in trade online. Chris got it at Midtown for me. Same with the King Kong book I reviewed a few days ago. But um, yeah, in here, like they're also like doing not so long ongoings. It's like 8 to 10 issues, and then they redo a number one, but it's still the same continuity. Man, I don't know what's going on. Can they just not sustain a long running comic? These days, I don't get it. They did that with the Darkwing Duck book. I think they did that with the Thundercats series too. I really don't know what's going on at Dynamite editorial, but like someone needs to like step in and get some rules in because this is getting out of hand. Like this is genuinely getting out of hand for everyone. And now that that's out, but aside from that, let's actually like talk about the comic. Um, yeah, so the comic, like I said, is an anthology, and we have a bunch of stories. A lot of them are one and done, except for um, Apocalypse Then, which is a two-parter. The comic ranges from a lot of different periods in time. We don't really focus on John Connor. We don't really talk about that. We do talk about Judgment Day a few times over. And what I like about this series is that we also have a lot of attention to. We also have a lot, and I do stress a. Um, Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Like we have a lot of attention to the T800 in that um, we have a lot of attention that the T800 is scary. I'm sorry. I'm like I'm still tired and I'm kind of scatterbrained. So yeah, I do love that in here because even Dark Horse did this too a lot in their comic, where the series would basically focus on a Terminator um, that is like a special model. And they didn't really do a lot. And they made T800s by the end of the Dark Horse books kind of jobbers. So it is nice to see that the T800 model is essentially the T800 model is a threat in these books. So I really do like that. And like I said, all these different time periods, um, they basically they basically are focusing on different characters that the T800s are hunting. And that's kind of the gist of the story. There are some differences here and there, but for the most part, it's really a Terminator going after someone, and that's really it. So the first one is a one and done called Out of Time, which is the first volume it's named after, and it's essentially about this married couple during in 2018 post Judgment Day in a land that isn't scorched by nuclear apocalypse, and being hunted by a Terminator that's been hunting them since the 80s. So it's a pretty fun start. It's a pretty neat story. There are ideas that Shavely does, but he doesn't really expand on them, and I'll get to that in a moment. Apocalypse Then is a two-parter during the end of the Vietnam War, with a soldier going to save his Vietnamese wife and child to get them out of Saigon, and a T-800 is hunting him during that expedition. That one's pretty fun. I think that one, Apocalypse Then might be my favorite story. Because it's just it's pretty cool to see the Terminator in like a Vietnam War. We never really got that. And again, I have to stress, it's so good to see the T8 model be a credible threat again. I haven't really seen them be a credible threat since like the Terminator Resistance game. If you guys remember that. The next one is called Whiskey Dark, which focuses on a Russian sub in the 1960s, essentially trying to get information to Russia. And it turns out that there's a Terminator on board that's here to destroy it. And there's also and this is where I was like, this is a cool idea, an interesting idea, but you leave so many questions open. That there's a secret society that know about the Terminators throughout time, and they've basically been trying to keep the Terminators from destroying the timeline. Like it's basically a time war that makes no sense. They don't go into anything with that. Like Shavely doesn't go into any detail with that idea. And it's an interesting one, but it's like, are you going to touch on that more in other books? No? Okay. All right. Well, I guess this book really, as much as I like this book, it also does feel like Shavely was just throwing shit at the wall to see what would stick. And just throwing out concepts of ideas in each one. Like, I want to do a Terminator story here. No. I want to do it. It's almost like he had a full ADHD brain moment. And it was just like, I want to do a Terminator story here. No. I want to do a Terminator story here. No, I want to do a Terminator story here. So Whiskey Dark is kind of my least favorite. The next one is Gemini Rising, which is a Terminator story set during the space race. And we have a Terminator destroying one of the Apollo spacecrafts. It's all right. It's probably the goriest of the books, but I do think it's kind of weak in storytelling. Finally, is Buried Alive, which is written by Sal. That was the recurring backup story in all 5 issues of this series. I think it's fine. It does deal with a repeating loop, and it is set during the war in Afghanistan. It's a pretty neat idea. Again, it doesn't really get a lot of chance to breathe. So I had to reread it twice to be like, okay, how does this work? But then again, time travel is always wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, isn't it? Anyway, so I think Terminator Out of Time is a pretty decent comic for what it's worth. Terminator Out of Time is a pretty decent book. I think it has some really cool ideas, but a lot of it does feel like a lot of scatterbrain stories. And now I know that Shavely's now doing another Terminator book that doesn't really follow this, called Terminator Metal, I believe. I don't know if that's out yet or ongoing, but yeah. So it's for Volume 1. I don't know if they're going to call it like the Metal Volume 2 or not, but yeah. So yeah, so if you are a Terminator fan, I say give this a shot. It's just nice to have coherent. It's nice to have good Terminator content. That thing we've been missing for 20 years. So it's nothing special, but it is good to see Shavely does understand the threat of the Terminator and respects it. So I do like that. Anyway, so you guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of Terminator Out of Time? Did you guys like it, hate it? Comment below, let me know. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.